At this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Jacqueline Nolis to the screen. If you want to turn on your audio and video. Perfect. So Dr. Jacqueline Nolis is currently the head of data science at Saturn Cloud, where she helps design products for data scientists. And we're excited to hear from you.
Thank you. And as just a preface, I'm not actually taking this call from the Pacific Northwest right now. I'm actually at my parents' house in Providence, Rhode Island. So you may see something like a toddler run in. It's not optimal, but we're all trying our best here. So okay, with that,
totally, we'll forgive you for not being in the Seattle area for Cascadia, our conference. Just this time. All right.
Okay, so this is my talk on how I made an entire e-commerce platform on Shiny, which I was very proud of. I'm very excited about. So this is about ggirl. So what is the package ggirl? Well, I had this thought that there are so many cool ggplot2 plots out there. It is so unfortunate that they are stuck on computer screens, and I wanted them to exist in the physical realm. So to start, the ggirl package has one function that you take a ggplot and you can pay money to have that mailed to you as a postcard. And so there is a plot I made on the screen, and then you can see it in postcard version. And this is really fun. Like, I cannot explain just how much fun it is to take something you've made and then 3 weeks later open your mailbox and see it in the physical realm. So it's really cool. I'm starting with postcards, but there are more mediums coming soon. In fact, one will be announced at the end of this talk. But users need to pay money for these. I'm not just going to give out postcards for free because they cost money to send, which meant that I had to make a Shiny app that actually can do the whole process of taking a ggplot and turning into taking your money and converting it into a postcard, which I have done. You can try it at Nolis ggirl on GitHub, and the rest of the talk is just about that. So rather than kind of explain it, I think it's actually easier just to show it first. So let's see. Are you guys all with me still? Yeah, and we're cascading screens. Perfect. Okay, so here's some R code. I'm just going to show it real quick. So let's say I have a plot, a really basic plot. Who cares? Some ggplot2 plot. I can use the library ggirl. I give it my contact email, the address I want to send it to, and the message that I want on the back of the postcard. So I run that. And then I use the command ggpostcard. And so what that'll do is it'll go from R, and it'll connect to a Shiny session. So Shiny's not running on my laptop. This is running somewhere else. So it passed the plot to the server located centrally. And then it gives me the preview of that postcard. It gives it a little nice margin around the image. It shows me the message and the address. And I can actually send to multiple people with one command, and I can have different messages for each person if I wanted to send out like wedding invitations via postcard for some reason. But then from here, if I like the preview, I hit pay and submit. And so this is the dev version. So this is going to be not my real credit card number. But at this point, no, just kidding. I accidentally went to the live version. So I'm going to try it again in the dev version. Let's do it one more time so you guys don't see my credit card number. Here we go. This is secrets, ggirl secrets. So the server is going to take a second to get online. The dev one, because again, I don't want you to send your credit card number, but so in here, I would be putting in all my credit card information, and then, okay, here we go. Here's the test one. So on the test one, now it's better. I'm in test mode, so I'll show you my credit card number, which is all 42. Who would have guessed? So I'm putting in fake information. My address is Issaquah. And then it actually calculates tax in there too. And so I hit pay. And after I do this from Stripe, so Shiny sent me to Stripe. Stripe will send me back to Shiny saying, hey, your order's been placed. In my email, I will get an order confirmation with a picture of it. And then in 2 to 3 weeks, I will get a postcard that has that image on it. So that's the whole flow. You go from R to Shiny to Stripe, back to Shiny, you get an email, and you get a postcard. So there's a lot going on there. So how does that actually work? So there's actually two things that are happening. One is there's the package that the user runs, ggirl, which you can go to GitHub and download, install on your computer. And all that package is really just a wrapper to take that plot and pass it to a different Shiny server. And then most of the hard work is done in this one Shiny app that's called ggirl server. And that does a lot of the work. It shows the image preview. It passes the information to Stripe. When Stripe gets the payment confirmed, it'll let Shiny know to put in the order for the postcard. And then Shiny will then, on the back end, send the postcard and send the email. Now, I will say that I did all of that as a single Shiny app. So the entire infrastructure is that one client-facing ggirl package and one Shiny server or Shiny app. So one Shiny app. But that's not really the right way to code this. I really should have had like a bunch of microservices. So like you use a plumber app to do the upload and a plumber app to actually fulfill the order. But then I would have had to be maintaining like 3 or 4 different services. And this is like an R stunt project. Like this is just for fun. And I didn't want to have to maintain a whole ecosystem of microservices. So I put it into one monolithic Shiny app. So the rest of this talk is just me talking about the different steps of this process, because I think each one is has a bunch of engineering challenges that went into it. And so the first part is, how do I actually pass the plot from R to a Shiny app? So how do I take a plot that was made on someone's computer and make it exist on a Shiny server somewhere else for people to view as a preview? So it turns out this is harder than I expected. I, for some reason, thought that this would be a situation a lot of people have of they want their R code to pass to some other Shiny thing. But it turns out like there's just not a lot of documentation of people wanting to do this. So there wasn't like one built-in Shiny function to load data from R on some other server. But it turns out it wasn't too bad. What I wanted to do was have my R package use a post command to send data to my Shiny server. But Shiny does not have a documented support for post, or at least an obvious documented way to have Shiny receive data that's not a user viewing Shiny. Instead is like a payload of data. So I had a couple options. One thing I could have done was I could have had like an upload file button on the preview, but I hated that. That's not fun and cool. And I wanted it that when you ran R, it automatically loaded up the Shiny server with the preview. I could have had Plumber manage the you could have had R send data to Plumber and then Plumber to Shiny, but that gets complicated. The 2 better solutions, one came from Garrick Idembwe, who suggested that Shiny has built within it an option for a shiny.http.response filter that would let Shiny, you can put a little wrapper in Shiny to say, hey, if you happen to be getting data from like an R command rather than a user viewing a website, do something special. But I wasn't super thrilled with that. And so instead, I decided to use Brochure, which is by Colin Fay, who's the same Colin Fay who made Gollum that was talked about in the previous talk. And Brochure is an experimental package that lets you do things like host a bunch of Shiny apps all within a single Shiny app. So you can bundle a bunch together. And you can also do things like you can handle post requests coming in from servers. So this actually solved a lot of my problems. And so in practice, what happens is when you run ggirl, that GG postcard command from R, it turns it into a PNG. So I don't have to worry about the server having the right packages necessary to view the plot. It turns it into a PNG, and then it sends it to Brochure. Brochure receives it, and then Brochure says, "Okay, we got your data. I'm going to pass you the ID of the session back," and then R is going to open up a browser to the Shiny with the correct ID of the application. So then the user preview, once you get to here, we now have your information on that plot. And this is just actually a very basic Shiny app. In fact, it only has one button, the pay and submit button. So this is very basic, straightforward for Shiny stuff. So then the next question is, okay, I have this preview. The user likes it. They say, yes, they want to pay and submit. So how can I get Shiny to then send someone to a Stripe session? And to me, this was actually daunting. I didn't want to do this project at first because I thought this would be too hard. It'd be too much of a hassle to make a Shiny app go collect money from someone. It turns out this was actually way easy. There's really just 2 things. So the way Stripe works, and Stripe is just an online tool for collecting payments. The way Stripe works is you have somewhere on a server, you say, hey, Stripe, go make a session of a checkout session. And the checkout session is going to have these items in the cart that cost this much. Go make it. And then the second step is you make some sort of JavaScript button so that when someone presses the button, they then go to Stripe with that session. So making the session was pretty straightforward. It's just when the Shiny app starts, it says, okay, this is what the postcard's like. This is how many you ordered. I'm going to create that session. And then to make it when you press that button, you go to Stripe, I had to do a little bit of JavaScript, which is, I actually had to do 3 lines of JavaScript, which is just make it so that when you press that button, it has a Shiny custom message handler, and that custom message handler just says, run the Stripe JavaScript, which I don't like JavaScript. Like I'm scared of it. It's terrifying, but really it wasn't bad to get that Stripe thing to work. And I have this coded as an example in the special repo ggirl examples. So if you want to try making your application collect money via Stripe as well, I have some code that can show you how to do it. Okay, so let's say the user goes to Stripe. They go to Stripe, they put in their credit card information, they hit pay. Then what I wanted to have happen is I wanted R to automatically know, hey, someone paid money, go fulfill the request they had. Go send that postcard and send them that email. And then I'm like, okay, this is a whole nother level of technical complexity. It felt like at the time. So how did I fulfill the postcard order? So the idea is, when Stripe says someone has paid, I'm going to use a third-party postcard API to send a postcard. So there are a bunch of places online that have APIs that say, if you use this API, we will send a postcard with a picture you used in the API for. So what Stripe does is Stripe sends a post request when a user pays. So you tell Stripe, hey, here's my server, and Stripe will be like, all right, cool. When someone pays, we will tell that server that person has paid. This is called colloquially, or technically that's called a webhook, but it's really just like a reverse post because they're posting to you. The complexity is that what I first had happen was every time Shiny gave me a post, I'd say, oh, cool. Or when Stripe would send a post, I'd say, okay, cool. Shiny will then run the function, the R code to submit the API request to order the postcard. But the problem is that takes a couple seconds. And Stripe says, hey, if you don't respond in like a half second saying, yes, we confirmed that we acknowledge that the person paid, Stripe won't believe you actually heard it, and Stripe will keep sending the request again and again. And so like the first time I was testing this, I ended up sending myself a lot of postcards accidentally because my code wasn't running quickly enough, which meant to actually do this fulfillment, I had to use a background process. So which is to say my Shiny app will, when it receives the post request from Stripe saying, hey, someone will paid, my Shiny app will start a background process using caller, and I'll in the background run some separate code and immediately start that separate code and then go back to Stripe and say, okay, cool, we got that payment. And that background code will both do the postcard fulfillment and it will also send the confirmation email. Again, I did this in Shiny using brochure, but really that should have been a Plumber app in like Google Cloud Run. Like it really should have been just a Plumber app that listens for that command and then sends these, but I really wanted all-in-one Shiny app because I'm lazy. And just another note, actually by far the hardest part of this project was finding a good vendor for the postcard fulfillment, because I actually went through like 3 different vendors and none of them met my exceedingly high standards of quality that ggplots deserve. So for instance, this is a picture of the back of one of the postcards I sent, and all that little artifacting, that is not your screen from a video like conference talk. That was actually on the postcard that got sent. And like, they just weren't at the beautiful quality that is required, 300 DPI, no compression for good ggplots. And so it took me a long time to find the right vendor, especially because every time I tested a postcard, it would take me a week and a half to get it. So, which is to say, you never know where the hard parts of these projects are going to come from. So then to send the confirmation emails, I used the R package Blastula, which made it very easy. And I like would resize the image and stuff, and I put a message in. But the hard part was, because I was running all these background processes, if there were errors, it would be hard for me to capture them. So I had to have a separate email that said, hey, if something went wrong in the fulfillment, then send me an email with the error message. So I would have emails for confirmations and emails back to me for errors. But occasionally the emails that send errors had errors, and I had to have a layer of sending warning emails on top of that, which is all to say you just want a lot of checks to make sure you don't like I really in this situation wanted a lot of checks so I didn't accidentally have people pay me and not get postcards for it. So then how did I deploy this app? Like, where does it run? So ggirl server, it's a single Shiny app, and I deployed it to shinyapps.io, which is great. It worked really well. I ended up paying for the non-free version at launch, like because I didn't know how much traffic the package was going to get, but I didn't even end up needing it because the code ended up being so light. So it was so easy. It was so cheap. I switched back to the free version. Everything's going great. In my code, I will say I use an environmental variable, ggirl deploy environment, to know if it was that dev or the prod version. So if the dev one I want to test around, or prod that users use. And in Shiny, and I highly recommend other people do this too. In shinyapps.io, I have 2 different actual servers running. I have the prod one and the dev one. These are 2 separate apps. There's 2 separate branches. It makes it really easy to test in ways that doesn't break prod. And I even, my life got way easier because I would make a couple of these deployment functions. And just every time I ran the function, it would automatically bundle everything up and send it straight to our studio or to shinyapps.io. So it really just made the deployment a lot faster and easier. And I did a lot of beta testing with users, which helped too. So that's the postcard stuff. It's really cool. Stripe was much easier to connect to Shiny than I was expecting. But what's next? I'm really excited about this. So on Tuesday, I'm launching the second version of the package, which is going to let you make art prints. So instead of just sending postcards, you can actually get like artist level quality prints of your prints in all different sizes and shapes. It's really fun. So that'll launch Tuesday. And with that, if you want to try this out, you can install from GitHub, jnolis ggirl, send some postcards, send some posters real soon. It's a lot of fun. And I think that's me. My time.
Thanks, Jacqueline.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much.